Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Deckled Edges podcast. I'm your host, Camilla, and today we're going to be talking about a novel that I was taken with very rapidly. I fell in love with this book very quickly. One could say from the moment I first laid eyes on the cover, I really, really find this cover beautiful. And not to judge a book by it, but I was very, very happy that I wasn't disappointed by the contents. The insides of this book are just as beautiful as the cover, and the prose and the characters, it's just a wonderful experience. So I hope you will join me. I hope that you will read the book after you join me. And in every sense of the word, I found this a great, great, great novel. So let's get into it. I have a lot of notes, I have a lot of things to say, and I think that there's a lot of important takeaways and a lot of just lovely observations. So let's do it. Okay, the book in question is I Cheerfully Refuse by Leif Enger. Beautiful cover, right? But yes, just it's heartbreaking, it's beautiful, it's hopeful, and I can't wait to talk about it. Okay, so firstly, if you ask me what my favorite human capacity is, what my favorite human tendency or virtue or ability, I will say hope or gratitude or wonder, but hope, really. And most importantly to me, there's a rich cache of hope. There's a treasure trove of hope, like a pot of gold, a leprechaun's pot of gold. And you find this at the edge of despair. And isn't that a marvelous thing? That hope is our most precious resource, more sacred to us than gold, more sacred to us than money or love or anything, truly. But it's not found always at the end of a rainbow like that pot of gold. It's not limited to something lucky, to something beautiful and rare. But to us humans, we can be up to our necks, suffocating in profound, unforgiving hardship. But at the end of the day, we could hear a bird sing, or we could hear a cool breeze, or remember a boat. And all of a sudden, hope, like sunlight, will come flooding in through a window we didn't even know existed. And that, to me, is where we're going to start talking about this novel. Because this beautiful, beautiful thing, this beautiful human capacity, ability that we have, that's what this novel was about. And it just imbues it within the pages so effortlessly, so beautifully, that I have to talk about it. I cannot wait. Okay, so first thing we're going to talk about is a beautiful life, right? What are the components of a good life? I know that that's a class at Yale, but to be honest, I think that this book creates such a beautiful portrait of what it really means to live a good life, a content and happy life, but not complacent. And there's such it's beautiful. But to me, you could say that Lark and Rainy are lucky. Okay, two main characters. You have our main character, our protagonist, Rainy, and his beautiful wife, Lark. And they live in this sort of not post-apocalyptic, but like near-apocalyptic future, sort of postmodern, like atmospheric dystopia. It's a town on the edge of one of the Great Lakes. And, you know, they live a comfortable, happy life together. They're so in love and, but I think that when you see this portrait of their life that Leif Enger creates, you're enamored by it from the beginning. But I think the gut feeling is also to count them lucky, to count them so blessed, inordinately blessed, like out of the norm, that they just got lucky in this sort of ravaged world to find this little pocket of peace. And they did, you could say that. They got lucky to find each other, to even have each other in the first place. That's something special. But I think what is also important, what I took away from this first part, was that they go to these great lengths to make themselves lucky, to find the luck, attract it to themselves. And it's not through any sort of magic or any sort of dishonest means. It's really, they're community builders. They show up to be these beacons, these lighthouses, I would say. They're keepers of this lighthouse in this dark that is really stoked, obviously not by like oil or anything, but by selflessness. They continually choose to throw out lifelines to their community, to people they don't even know that well. Be selfless when it's far easier and would have had a much better outcome for them if they were selfish. But they attract this contentment, this joy and tangible energy to their life because of the selflessness. Because if they lived any other way, it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't have the same quality. And even if on paper events would have unfolded perhaps a little bit better for them if they were more reserved, if they stayed in their own lane, did things their own way, basked in their luck, basked in their love for each other for the rest of their life, it wouldn't have the same timbre. For example, Labrino, Rainey, the multiple times that we see Labrino in this novel, not always on his best days, honestly, on some of his worst. And yet, we feel for him as a character. We don't see him as this desolate product of this apocalyptic world. Oh, he's just trapped in despair. We see that he reaches out and grabs that lifeline. It's one of the most poignant examples of, here is Rainey and Lark's purpose. Here is their function in the community. Here's what they do. Here's the essence of it. And it would be so different. And nothing would be the same without that. Whether Rainey's playing for Labrino, playing the bass, or just sitting with him. And you see, it's interesting too, because we're inside of Rainey's head. We are privy to his internal monologue. We see that it's not an easy choice for him to be selfless all the time. It doesn't come as easily to him as it does maybe to Lark, where she sees every good in every person. But Rainey is a little bit more reserved. To him, it's almost more admirable because this selflessness is a sacrifice. He is making this conscious sacrifice for Lark's sake, for the sake of his community, for the sake of this life he's built, to be selfless, to make that choice, and to be someone, a lighthouse for the people who are walking that edge of despair. He is their hope. They are their hope. And they create their own luck in that way. Secondly, they're so in love. I think that so much of the first part of this novel is setting up this love story, and it's not a traditional love story by any means. That's not what this book is about. But it's interesting to be placed right in the middle of their love. And oh my gosh, his beautiful prose, it helps to convey it so perfectly. But it's also interesting because these aren't two naive people. I sort of already established it, but these are people who know the world they live in. They're painfully aware of it at every turn. And yet they still love, like their lives depend on it because they do. Because this beautiful life they've built that they're lucky and blessed to have requires that input, from their end. And every time Rainey describes Lark, I feel something profound, I think every reader would, because it's just such a deep, certain love. The prose is so beautiful. It feels like you're in this character's head, and his emotions are your emotions. Leif Enger gives you the beautiful gift of handing you a wife, and he tells you, you adore her, and let me show you all the ways you do. And it's just, Rainey, to me, he was like Prometheus stealing fire from the gods to give to the mortals. Lark is that fire to her community, to Rainey. He doesn't care about the sacrifice, about the risk of taking it and giving it to this desolate world, because it was worth it to him to hold on to that fire for just a little while, even if it burns him in the end, just to hold on. But it's just Lark was this precious life-giving gift for them. And she continued to be. Anyway, and that's just the beginning. Um, but truly, Enger, I've read one novel by him before, his debut, Peace Like a River. Highly recommend, but I just couldn't help myself. I had to do this one first. Um, but he writes these beautiful atmospheric novels that, like I said, they give you a wife to adore. They give you a father to look up to put on a pedestal. They give you a brother and a sister and a community. That's their gift to you. I had that when I was reading these books. And they gorge you on the simple pleasures of life. They let you feel this contentment. They let you feel what it's like. And then they take you and your comfortable pleasure and contentment and family breakfast and morning tea. And then they take you on the most meaningful, heartbreaking, arduous voyage that you could ever imagine. And you don't even notice it's happening at first. You don't even notice it's happening, and then it hits you in the face. And you say thank you. And you say thank you. Because that's what you gotta do. Like, you just say thank you. Because it really does feel like your life. And at the end, you're just stuck catching your breath and staring into space and choking on the hope of it all. And you say thank you. And you do. Okay. I keep going on and on. But this book, it's so gorgeous and glorious. And, it's quiet and it's loud. It doesn't feel overbearing, but even when everything is happening, it's the best I could describe it without spoiling. Like, at the end of the book, everything is happening. In the middle of the book, everything is happening. And you keep meeting people and heartbreaking characters that feel so raw and rough around the edges and real. But it's also quiet and peaceful and contemplative. It's not like pure action, but it feels like something is happening. There's always a pull forward, It feels like you're dragged along and sometimes you're on those water skis and sometimes just hanging onto the rope. And it's so full of music. Oh my goodness, this book is full of music. It sings, it dances. It's like a monkey. It's so beautiful. And another thing I thought was interesting too is inherently this is a dystopia, right? And in a sense. And the dystopian elements are everywhere. It's the near future, undisclosed time, or era, but it's a dystopia. There are compliance meds that they give to indentured servants. It's like barely masked politics where class divides are wider than ever. These 16 families are so detached from all the world, so out of touch that they're called astronauts because they basically command the entire world's supply chain and news and everything. And there's this drug at the center of the book called Willow, where it is popular because it provides people in deep despair with a couple of hours of elation at the end of their life. And they call it stepping through the door, where at the end of their life, well, not at the end of their life, they take the drug and they experience these hours of contentment in the middle of their despair, and then they step through the door and they use it to commit suicide. And it's just slowly fed to you. And these elements, they're not hidden. They come in right through the prose, it's obvious. But I had the impression that they just kind of crept in. Like, the details just slowly faded into the perception of my peripheral vision, and waited for me to become aware of them. And I feel like that, to me, was much more powerful than just being force-fed a dystopia, being told, here's the politics at play, here's the hierarchy. No, like, it just felt real. Like, that's how it feels like to describe a real world. And oh my goodness, there's so much. It's just so beautifully crafted. And it's hard in the midst of the action, even when things are hitting the fan. It's so hard to tear your eyes away from the characters. I love Rainey's voice. I love hearing it and understanding the awareness that it brings to me. How he thinks, how he sees the characters around him, how they think. Oh, it's beautiful. It's like having beautiful voices inside of your head. Um, Giving you their burdens, giving you their struggles, but it's powerful. Anyway, but to continue forward, but I would like to keep this without spoilers and more general. But in the midst of his sort of dark night of the soul, right, Rainey sets out on a voyage. And what stood out to me as well is that in the midst of this voyage, he asks himself on page 154, he asks himself, is it so much to ask, right? A 3-chord song, a common life. Could we all have that someday? Could I? And, as much as this plea aches, because in the middle of his hardship, he finds this peninsula, this island, this sandbar of peace, of a vestige of his past life, of what could have been, if nothing went awry. And yet, it's a beautiful, heartbreaking statement because you know that it's impossible. But at the same time, it kind of speaks to all of us. Do we not at all, at some point in our lives, wish for the hardship to go away? That we never have to suffer, that we never have to make a difficult decision, that we could just sit and enjoy a common life. Something that unfolds in 3 parts: childhood, adulthood, old age, easy, ordinary. Do we not all ask for that at one point? But then, in my opinion, the rest of the book goes to show and affirms in me what I strongly believe, that even in this unfathomable suffering that he experiences and that we all experience, there's just this wild, unexpected good things that come out of an uncommon life, that prove to us that it is worth living uncommon lives, that we shouldn't, even though sometimes we have this desperate desire for that 3-chord song, to have an uncommon life, there will be more good that could ever come from that than we could ever imagine. And it's obvious, many of us, our lives won't entail such a vast, breakneck, unexpected voyage, and I hope they don't, but at the same time, isn't it a beautiful thing to have taken that leap and go the distance, and at the end of the day you sit and you say, wow, like, there was good that came out of that, and I'm happy it happened. Maybe not happy everything happened, but there are things that make life worth moving forward for. And I think that in the context of The Willow, in the context of how easy it would have been for Rainey to go a different direction, to take another way out, the fact that he chose to go through it and take away what he did, that was powerful. And on the very last page of this book, before the acknowledgements, he writes, I am always last to see the beauty I inhabit. And it's true, because we all are. When we look at other people's lives, there's this desire to maybe co-opt aspects of theirs, to wish that we had maybe what we don't have. And sometimes that's a fair desire, but at the end of the day, there's beauty where you are. And obviously, cliche, okay. But it was I think to me, it was a very powerful way to end this book, because it doesn't end in the action. It doesn't end on a hard stop, like, okay, conflict over, he's home. It ends on a note of hope. It ends on this idea that through the suffering, there becomes a new perspective, a new awareness. And that is what really this book was about. And at the very last line, it says, I steered for home, maybe I would dance. To me, this book felt like a dance. It felt like a beautiful, tumultuous, multi-act dance, but that's what it felt like, and that's what I think that all of our lives should feel like. And when you read this book, I hope it feels like that for you too. So that's all I have for you today. I hope that you enjoyed it. I could say more. I could say a lot more about this book. I didn't even talk about Warwick or Kellen or any of the other characters, but I think that the beauty of this book is you go on this voyage and you stop when he stops and you go when he goes. And when there is silence, you have to sit in it with him and you have to feel it. And I think that that is a journey best discovered on your own by reading the book. And these are just my general reflections and meditations. But truly, I think that this book is worth your while. And I hope that what I took from it, you can also take from it. And I hope that you take much more. I think there was beauty in, Leif does such a beautiful job in showing the different dimensions of human relationships. And he finds the beauty in all of them. He finds the beauty in the bond between a husband and a wife. He creates it so deeply, like I said, you can feel it. You feel like that's your bond, you know? He places you right in there. He creates this beautiful picture of a relationship between neighbors. I think that we all sort of feel that. If you have neighbors, if you know what it's like to be acquaintances, friends with your neighbors, you'll know that it's sort of it's an odd place to be because someone has to take the first step to build that bridge. You live right next to each other, but there's nothing connecting you until someone bridges that gap and creates a community. And I think that that's something that we can all apply to our lives, that we can all relate to, in that it's not like a touch and go. It's not you're forced to be in the same room together. You can live your whole life and not know your neighbor, but there's something beautiful about that community that Leif places us into in the beginning of the book. Then about hospitality, about about the gift that it is to receive strangers and to receive strangers into your home and have them leave as friends. About this beautiful thing that is being selfless and going out of your way for people, going the extra mile. That is so beautifully exemplified by a traveler, because a traveler doesn't have a home base to return to. They rely on the other people, on the generosity, on the beautiful communities that don't exist yet, that aren't already there for them to just absorb, assimilate into. They have to go and seek it and make it on their own. And the characters that took Rainey in, the characters that shunned Rainey, all of that was just, it's so beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful portrait of humanity. It kind of reminds me of, like, there's something that's escaping me, but it's like looking at a beautiful painting with everything going on in it, and it just, like, your eyes trace a line. Like, I'm kind of reminded of the Garden of Earthly Delights. It's this massive triptych that it would take forever to look at every detail, but your eyes go through it. It has nothing to do with this book actually, but it's a journey to look at that painting, and everything is going on and everything's happening, but it feels like every relationship that Rainey encounters is just like smacked on a canvas so you can see, and you just have to wean your way through it like a labyrinth. It's beautiful, and he shows us the beauty of found family, but deeper than that, like a real connection that can be formed between someone who is not your blood and who becomes your blood through shared experience. So I really think that you should read this book, if you couldn't tell. But also, I hope that you really enjoyed hearing my thoughts about it, coming and spending some time with me. And at the end of the day, I think that we should all reach the end of a long and arduous voyage and think that maybe we should dance. and maybe we should play some music and share a meal with our friends. So thank you so much for listening to the Deckled Edges podcast. I am so delighted to be doing this again. And I hope you join me next time. And have a lovely day. Bye.